Welcome back to the Phase 4 build. Most of the time when I do engine swaps, I don't use mount kits. It's always cheaper to use the factory mounts from your donor car when doing an engine swap. After all, they were designed to hold that engine, its shape and the forces that it generates by the manufacturer. The only fabrication involved is holding the new mount to the chassis, either with adapter plates or brackets, which you've got to make yourself. These main Honda Accord V6 factory engine mounts only need captive nuts to hold these two bolts onto the chassis. So I've cut plates to fit on the Civic rails, and I've welded captive nuts on the inside, and I'll use the engine itself with everything bolted in place but movable to position them exactly with the engine on the trolley. Here's the new gearbox mount with its two captive nuts to replace the factory 4-cylinder mount bracket that I cut off there. And when that's welded in place, it will increase the strength of that chassis rail, and it'll also give it a very neat factory appearance. When you're fitting a bolt-in roll cage to meet Australian racing standards, you naturally have to have bolt-up joints in the cage. There's a number of different types of joints, and the standard ones that CAMS prefers and that Bond roll cages make are these ones with a sleeve that goes right over the tube or around the tube and two bolts through it. But the problem with these is that to get some of them in place, or to get the bars that they go into in place, you've got to open them right out. Then the problem becomes, how do you close them back down? I've tried using G-clamps of various shapes, types and sizes, and they are nearly always impossible to get in because the roll cage is so close to the body metal of the car, and they tend to slip off. These things, trying to close these clamps up, they're a real nightmare. But I've worked out a better way. I've tried using wire, twisting that round. That's a nightmare. You've got to use a new piece of wire for every joint that you're pulling tight. What I use now, and I've been using for over 10 years, is Utilux, as we call them in Australia, radiator hose clamps. You put them around, tighten them up, and they'll pull that joint right in nice and tight. You can use a Phillips screwdriver to tighten them up, but my trick is to use a 10mm socket on a cordless drill, and that pulls them up real tight, real fast. Easy to undo as well. That's a red line tip for fitting a roll cage.